Today I'm bringing you the Deadeye Ranger build that have been taking shape over the last week. Unlike most builds I've seen so far, this carries a ton of flexibility with the ability to set up different situational combos and smash large packs easily, as well as being reliable against bosses and rare mobs. And before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, as it helps the channel a lot. And yeah, let's go! So, starting with the skills and support gems. This isn't an exhaustive and final list, but rather a work in progress, testing out different variations and combos to find out what works best in different scenarios. So from tier 1, we'll be starting off with the Poison Burst Arrow. This is one of the build's staples, firing off an arrow that applies poison to the target as well as targets nearby. Along with the Corrosion Gem, this deals massive damage over time as we crack the target's armor, making them weaker and weaker. With Lacerate, we apply Bleed, which counts as an ailment. We'll want to stack as many ailments as possible due to passive bonuses, which I'll get into later. And lastly, I use Bursting Plague for 10% extra damage, which is particularly good for dragged out boss encounters. Now next, we'll need the Lightning Arrow. This is used for clearing out large packs of mobs, and we'll want to max out lightning damage here for farming and clearing, and to that end, we use Lightning Infusion for extra lightning damage, Innervate to gain an extra 35% damage buff to lightning when shocked enemies are killed, and Conduction in order to shock more, netting the 35% damage increase from Innervate. And another staple in the farming and clearing combo is Lightning Rod. You'll use it to increase the AoE damage together with Lightning Arrow. As the damage isn't important, but the spread is, we use Scattershot for this skill. We also use Magnified Effect to cover a larger area. This synergizes with the main clearing skill, which we'll get into soon. Now, once you get your first Spirit Gem, you pick Herald of Thunder. It's a nifty bonus damage to have, as you gain stacks of it from killing mobs that are shocked. And we use Electrocute with this skill in order to build up Electrocution, and Inevitable Critical to dish out extra damage. I also have Envenom, as I'm currently in the support gem waiting room looking for something better. Now moving on to the next tier, we have Stormcaller Arrow. This is an absolute banger in boss fights, and it's what you'll be spamming in your rotation. It sticks an arrow into the target and after a delay calls down a lightning bolt that deals massive damage. For this skill we use Primal Armament for increased elemental damage, Lightning Penetration to get through damage resistances, and Lasting Shock in order to get longer duration. This skill has an 800% increased chance to shock, so 25% less chance isn't a big deal. Next, we use Freezing Salvo. This is the only cold skill we're rocking, but it's an absolute beast in tough situations that dish out massive amounts of damage if you fire it off with full stacks. You do have to stand still while firing though, so wait for a good moment, like when the boss is stunned or when you're not surrounded by enemies. I use Unbreakable due to lack of other gems, and Hourglass. As the skill charges up stacks, you won't be spamming it anyway, so the 10-second cooldown doesn't change anything in terms of spammability, which just makes it a raw 40% damage increase. Next, we have Barrage. This is what we'll be spending Frenzy charges on in order to fire off multi-shots. It's simply lovely as an extra utility skill, since you can use it with all your other skills except for Freezing Salvo. When you're at maximum Frenzy charges, you activate the skill, and for clearing mobs you can use Lightning Rod to get 12 arrows on the ground, or for a boss you can use it with Stormcaller Arrow for an insane damage burst. You can also use it with Lightning Arrow to just melt away enemies, which you'll see later in the showcase. Now here we use Premeditation for 15% extra damage and Murderous Intent, meaning we can execute enemies once they get low enough. Now, for the second Spirit Gem, you want Combat Frenzy. That is what generates us the Frenzy charges. When we freeze with Freezing Salvo or Electrocute with Herald of Thunder, we'll gain stacks of Frenzy that can be used together with Barrage. We use Precision to gain practically a permanent 30% increased accuracy rating, and Profusion to get charges faster. Lastly, and this is a big lastly, we have Voltaic Mark. This beauty of a skill is insane at clearing packs. You simply stick it on a low health minion, kill it, and it makes huge damage to everything around it. If something survives the Lightning Nova, put a new mark on that target, kill it, and boom. If that doesn't kill everything in range, rinse and repeat. It's also great against single targets since it increases the chance to shock and increases the effect of shock on the target, meaning you deal an extra 30% damage while the target is shocked, which is pretty insane, man. Now for this we have Inspiration because it's pretty expensive, and we also have Rising Tempest, which means you do more damage if you recently used skills of different elementals. We will be using Poisoned and Electricity all the time, and also Frost in some situations, meaning you can max out 36% more damage with the Nova. So let's move on to the passives. Since everyone might not have all the skills point required for this build, I'll list what directions to take and in what order. First, we start off by going up to Harness the Elements. When your ailments are up, you deal much more damage, and if we stack them, that's even more damage. And next, we're going way down here to Feathered Fletching. This skill means that all increases you get to projectile speed also increases damage by the same amount. So instead of focusing on raw damage, we can focus on projectile speed in order to get a double buff. And then moving on, we take Frazzled for mana regen and higher shock vulnerability, Maiming Strike for increased attack damage, and then all the way up to Falcon Technique. This is an absolute banger as you get into the later stages of the game, since you get 1% attack speed per 15 dex. I'm not even maxed out yet, and I have an additional 12% attack speed, and in addition to all the dex perks that you get. And next we move up to Enhanced Reflexes for that sweet 8% increased dex, which also scales as you get higher and synergizes well with Falcon Technique. Then we go back to somewhere here, Struck Through. Now this video isn't intended to explain the damage counting system in general, but 1% crit hit chance here is a raw number that is cumulative, as opposed to say Sniper, that is additive. It's massive in any case. Moving down, we're going to Wasting. 30% increased damage against enemies afflicted by ailment is a no-brainer, since they'll always be afflicted. And then we'll move down to Exploit in order to further increase that damage. Then I took Surging Currents. This should probably have been taken earlier, but I was experimenting with some different routes, and this has proven pretty useful. My next intention is to go down here to Thunderstruck to electrocute faster, and Catapult for projectile speed, and with Feathered Fletching it also means we get damage. Now beyond that I'm still considering my options, so leave a comment below if you have any suggestions. Now for the jewels, I just recently found some good ones. This is a banger. This is a banger. But this is absolute shit. So just take whatever you get, since you can change them out when you get new ones. And if you really want something good, just go to the auction house and find something, eh? Now, for the Ascendancy, we are rocking Endless Munitions, which is absolutely insane, as it lets you fire off a second projectile free of charge, essentially doubling your damage output. I'm still undecided as whether to pick Thrilling Chase. Now we have it. Thrilling Chase or Windward next. Thrilling Chase could give some insane bursts with up to 8 shots in one, but Tailwind grants skill speed, movement speed, and evasion, with the latter becoming more and more handy as the game progresses, as you can see here. Now, let me know in the comments what you think. I've also done Eagle Eye for a long while and loved it, because you basically never miss. But it's a type of skill that you don't miss until you don't have it anymore, so I will probably test this out for a while longer, then swap back to Eagle Eye, only to see what impact this has. Now for the gear, you want to hit max physical damage on the bow. I've tried rocking dual string bow, but find that it's too inconsistent as the pathing for the arrows gets offset. It means you miss a lot on bosses, so for the time being I'm a mean lean one string machine. Now generally go for crit damage, dex, damage to attack, as well as attack speed. Also try to rock fire damage, which is an elemental ailment. It increases, synergizes with this bad boy here. Harness the elements. And movement speed is an absolute must. You'll be so much more nimble, clear so much more faster, because you'll be able to dodge basically everything. And resistances is all the jazz, but for now I'm content on being a glass cannon. If you have the funds for it, try to land this belt. It has saved me in countless boss fights and is an absolute must before looking to gear max, because I know there are better belts out there. But yeah, as soon as you're almost dead, you can just pop a potion and bam, you're full health. So, how do we fight with this build? Now, I'm going to show you. The standard combo, however, is you pop Poison Burst first, put on Volcanic Mark on the closest target, put the Lightning Rod on the ground and Lightning Arrow until he pops. This will delete most large packs, and if it doesn't, you can just Poison Burst Arrow them down until they're all dead. For tougher mobs, you just want to keep rotating Poison Burst Arrow, keeping Lightning Rod up on the ground, rotating Volcanic Mark, and focusing on the target which has Volcanic Mark in order to get the Nova. For bosses, we follow a simple rotation. Try to keep Lightning Rod on the ground and then rotate between 1 Poison Arrow, 3 Stormcaller Arrow, 1 Poison Arrow, 3 Stormcaller, and when the boss is standing still, fire off Freezing Salvo. Try to keep Volcanic Mark up and reload Lightning Rod on the ground. I still haven't figured out a way to consistently get frenzy charges on bosses, so Barrage is somewhat useless in these fights. And here is another cool combo. So we want to start off by applying Volcanic Mark on target, preferably one up front. Then we pop our Lightning Rod, and if you have frenzy charges, you pop Barrage and boom, Lightning Arrow. This deletes everything in front of you. So there you have it. You can also use Freezing Salvo to set off the Volcanic Mark Nova. And another nifty trick is that you can do the usual combo, but before casting Volcanic Mark, you shoot a Stormcaller arrow and then mark whatever it hits. Since the Stormcaller burst is delayed, you will have plenty of time to cast the mark in time for a massive explosion, triggering the Nova in succession. That is all I have for now. Thank you for watching. Do the usual if you enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions about the build, gearing, items, whatever, just leave a comment as well as suggestions. So yeah, goodbye, and by the way, subscribe, because this is a coordinated disgrace.